Good morning, everybody. Thank you for listening to another segment of the Athletic Conceptual Training Podcast. Today, we have a very powerful interview for you with an industry leader and connector and just all around wonderful person, Lucy Nash. Lucy Nash is a registered veterinary technician, customer experience leader, and now community partnership manager. She spent over a decade in veterinary medicine, from general practice to ER to shelters and even rehab, while also shaping conversations about engagement, retention, and culture. She has partnered with initiatives like BlendVET and the Pathway Project to drive change and innovation across the profession. Today, we're talking about culture, collaboration, and the future of veterinary medicine. Lucy, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me. I really hope I can live up to that intro right there.
So that means you like it.
Yeah, no, love it.
Absolutely.
Good. I'm stealing that one.
How have you been? We've been trying to get you on for a long time, and we're just talking about the IVEX conference where we had to sit down. I mean, what's been going on in between?
Yeah, it's been great. It was so cool to meet you at IVEX and sit down and learn about everything you're doing and setting up. And I think you and I were connected the day before I was about to go and volunteer at one of the Pathway events down in Chula Vista. And that was really cool. I think IVEX, people go to veterinary conferences for their education and for, networking with different people. But honestly, I always find the most exciting thing about these conferences is getting to meet the future of veterinary medicine. And we'll talk a little bit about like how culture can build up and things like that later on, but the things that BlendVET and Pathway are doing, the Pathway programs are doing with introducing veterinary medicine to high school kids and like people who are considering a path in this industry. I highly recommend to anyone who's listening to this that's in vet med already, if you are ever having any kind of waver about, am I in the right place? Am I, maybe I'm feeling a little down about veterinary medicine, go do an event like this, because just meeting, the future of the industry is just so uplifting. It's our industry is going to a good place, and I'm really excited about it.
Yeah, and shout out BlendVET, Dr. Nicole Bruno, Dr. Nicole with 2 C's, just so you guys all know.
Yep.
But her work is so inspiring. And what inspired me the most about it was I started out what I'm doing, blending sports and veterinary medicine. I was trying to go down that path as well and introduce athletes to this wonderful world of veterinary medicine. Because it's something like I was telling Nicole, I don't remember a veterinarian coming to my school and introducing that world to me. And I didn't know it was a pathway until I found it out as an adult. So just under the guise of representation and awareness, it's such good work.
Thanks. And also, different industries melding and mixing with each other, we can all learn different things from different industries. Vet med has a very a lot of people have a view of vet med of it's medicine. We're a little bit like human healthcare, but different. But there are so many elements of customer service and creating culture and engagement, which are prevalent in every workplace. Like, considering the state of the world we're in right now, people every industry is struggling. Vet med is not the only one. And we can all really learn a lot from each other about how we interpret that, how we work with that, and how we fix that.
Strong words. Yeah. Tell me a little bit about Hound. How's that been going? You've been making some waves and pushing as the director. I mean, you've been rocking it.
Thank you. So yeah, Hound is awesome. I was fortunate enough to meet the team at Hound a few years ago, and I actually joined the team a little shy of 3 years ago now. I started working as a customer experience manager, so working with the hospitals that were recruiting, and then recently this year have taken over a position as a community partnership manager.
Yeah.
So to share a little bit about what Hound does, because I'd be remiss to not share, like, hey, what does Hound actually do? They're recruiting, relief, and retention platform. So wanting to help people in veterinary medicine find jobs they love, and then once they get there, help them stay there. Do things for building culture, retention, and employee engagement within a clinic. So it's a website you can go to, like, a similar to. There's some similarities to a lot of job boards, but it's very personalized to veterinary medicine. So for 5 main positions
Mm-hmm.
within veterinary medicine, and for those for employers to be able to recruit in clinical practice. So doctors, assistants, technicians, CSRs, practice managers, you name it, if you're trying to break into that industry, or maybe you're already in the industry but looking for a new position. And then one of the projects I worked on a lot when I first started was the employee engagement and retention tool. And as I mentioned, we wanted to help teams hire the right people and then be able to put things in place to help keep them, like hear their employees' feedback, know what kind of things, have the whole team involved in the process of making that hospital run efficiently, everyone be happy in their work and love their work. Vet med is a crazy industry.
Yeah.
We do it because we love it. Burnout, compassion fatigue, and all things like that are things we're hearing all the time right now. And what Hound wants to help do is build ways that we can, we're never going to resolve everything. Like, there's always
Right.
going to be issues. Like, what you fix one problem and then there's, potentially another one that comes up. But we want to make things a little bit better one step at a time.
Love that. Yeah.
Yeah. And then my role as a community partnership manager, I actually get to do fun stuff for our job seekers now. We like to provide a lot of resources for our relief workers and for our job seekers, because sometimes when you're looking for a job, or if you're a relief worker, you don't get continuing education because you're not directly linked to a hospital.
Oh,
You maybe
wow.
don't know about all the different partnerships and things like that are out there that you can learn and do things. So I get to work now with lots of really cool companies and initiatives in the industry where we partner with them to get these resources for free
Mm-hmm.
for our job seekers. So things like we do at least 2 hours of free race-approved continuing education each month with a bunch of different speakers. We recently launched a Vet Tech series in honor of Vet Tech Week. These are all continuing education sessions that are led by a veterinary technician, aimed at veterinary technicians. So you're hearing from, you're not necessarily hearing from doctors and
Right.
practice managers. You're hearing from your peers
Yeah.
about what they're learning about. And we like perks and things like that. Like, hey, you're not attached to a hospital, but you want to get Fear Free certified. Cool. Let us help you connect with Fear Free.
Oh,
You want to maybe get some discounted scrubs. You want to get some connections with different food industries, all those kind of things.
wow. It sounds like Hound should be the go-to for relief veterinarians. Everybody out there listening, please go follow Hound on Instagram. Go follow Lucy Nash. Once we finish with this interview, we'll make it available so you guys can have access to all these great benefits that and on work that Hound and Lucy is doing. Amazing work.
And also, I am very fortunate enough to work with an awesome team. So if for any reason what your needs is something I can't help you with, we have an amazing team that will be able to help you with whatever you need.
Yeah, thank you. Wow. I have a couple of questions for you. I'd like to get to know you a little bit better and just learn more about your work. You've had such a diverse career path: finance, entertainment, customer service, more than 10 years in veterinary medicine. How has that shaped the way you see leadership and culture in this field?
Can you tell I didn't know what I wanted to be when I grew up? It's right there. No, I actually think it's been when I first started in vet med, I always worried that the fact that I didn't, straight out of high school, straight out of college, decide to go into veterinary medicine, I thought that was going to be a detriment to me. What I inevitably found was actually it was almost like a superpower, because I had mentioned it already earlier that I'd had experience in other industries of how they had worked certain ways. Like as you mentioned, I worked in finance. I actually started out, I graduated college with a finance degree. I thought I was going to go into finance. I am really glad for many reasons I didn't. But I went into like a hybrid customer service finance job. I didn't love it, but it paid the bills.
Yep.
And I learned a lot about how to deal with people, because you're handling people and handling their money. People are stressed and they're wanting to make sure everything's going correctly. And I think that's a transferable skill that came into vet med, because people are stressed, especially when I was working in the ER, people are super stressed about the situation they're in with their pet. And then finances comes into that. And that's not a fun conversation to have. But I'd already dealt with speaking to people in financial stress. So it was a little less scary for me. Now, obviously, you're adding in their baby is hurt or needing expensive treatments or whatever. There's an added layer to that. But it was really interesting to see, like, okay, I've worked in these different industries. What can I bring from them to vet med that will help better vet med?
Yeah. When it comes to collaboration, as you're alluding to it, whether with people, BlendVET pathway, or your role at Hound, what do you think makes a partnership truly impactful for the profession?
That's a great question. I think there's so many answers to that, and it can very much depend on what the purpose of the partnership is. But at the end of the day, any partnership that is a mutual and equal partnership that is doing something that is going to better the industry in general. It's that adage of, like, when you go to like national parks or things, leave things better than how you got there. Like, don't leave like trash behind and stuff like that. I know it's this really simple, weird analogy, but if you can do something that it may not change thousands of people's lives, but if you can change one or two, like, that is going to have an impact, and that is going to like ripple out effect. Again, stuff we're doing with Hound, for example, like, we're providing continuing education for people who may not have access to that. So we may
which is huge.
Yeah. So, like, for example, we actually have a continuing education event tonight on the night of the recording. We're doing this that is about bandages. And so some people may not get experience about how to manage when bandages go wrong. If that helps one person with a case tomorrow, like someone comes in with a case, a slipped bandage, and if they hadn't come to that CE, they wouldn't know about that. That's my job done. And the partnership between me and the speaker and the sponsor of that CE, like the people that have put together to make this thing happen, honestly, for me, if that helps one person with one case tomorrow, that's my job done.
Yeah. And speaking on collaborations, shout out Brian's Bandages.
Yeah, absolutely. Shout out. Yeah, I'm super excited to be working with Brian today.
Yeah, he's been doing it for a long time. Does great work. I got to get some of those bandage scissors too.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I was like, I'm shopping. I was like scrolling his website today. So shout out, Brian.
Yeah. Really quick, I wanted to bring awareness and highlight to your amazing t-shirt, and just see if you could speak to it and what it means and things like that.
Yeah, so this is actually again, we're going to shout out Dr. Nicole here, but this is a BlendVET t-shirt. It says "Empowered Women Empower Women," and this is a lot of initiatives, and there's so many groups that are doing things like this in vet med, and I love it because, for a long time, vet med was a male-dominated industry. We still need men in the industry. I'm not saying like, hey, we should be an all-female industry. We need diversity and inclusion in the industry. You need people from different paths, from different viewpoints, from different backgrounds, because that's what makes us amazing. So collaborating with different groups from that, for women's rights, for LGBTQ plus, for different races and nationalities, we need to make sure they're being highlighted and given opportunities. Again, this is something why I'm really passionate about with creating our continuing education programs and our resources with Hound, is that for many reasons, there's things that just some groups and some parts of the country and some like different groups are not going to have access to or can't get access to easily. And so we want to be able to provide ways for them to be able to access them more freely. And it's true, empowered people empower more people, whether that be empowered women empowering women, to breaking it down into different parts of the industry. Empowered technicians empower other technicians, empowered doctors empower more doctors. You know, we can all help elevate each other. We should not be getting to positions where we're higher up and then pulling the ladder up after us. We should be helping that next generation make things better.
Great segue into this next question. You're a strong advocate for employee engagement and retention. What's one thing that you think clinics consistently get wrong about the culture?
I think a lot of people assume that culture is wanting to, everyone has to band together, everyone has to hang out all the time, everyone has to like each other. Like in any job, your coworkers don't have to be your best friends. Like they can't. It'd be nice if they were. That's great. That's a really, like, I hate the phrase, you know, our clinic is a family, those kind of things. But you don't have to be best friends, but you have to be able to work together and respect each other. And so I think sometimes practice managers or groups, when they're aiming at culture, go, oh, we have to all do like a community event together and go hang out, or maybe do a thing after work, or and people have lives. They don't. Sometimes you do, like, as much as you love your job and you want to be involved in veterinary medicine, sometimes you do just like, hey, this week my job is 8 till 5. I want to go work 8 till 5, and then afterwards I'm going home, and that is, I become me at home. So that needs to be a thing. I think what actually benefits culture is things like utilization, being heard, feeling respected, and those kind of things, which I will say, it is in the last 6 to 12 months, we are seeing a turnaround in that, and we are seeing clinics start to become aware of these things, start to learn and start to do stuff. There are some amazing practice managers out there, and again, shout out to VHMA, who are a practice managers group who do a lot of education stuff and support for practice managers. And there, you know, it is getting better. It's always going to be a slow process, but culture and retention and employee engagement is not pizza parties and making sure everybody loves each other. It's just making sure that everyone feels comfortable and safe at work. And that's whether it's like actual safety or psychologically safe, or lots of things like that.
Yeah, love that. Love that. Do you believe high turnover in vet med is mostly caused by poor leadership, or is it a byproduct of an industry that hasn't evolved fast enough?
That is hard. I will say probably a little bit of both and a little bit of neither. I mean, veterinary medicine, things go slowly. In human healthcare, things go slowly. I think we just, you know, we're in that bubble of vet med that we think it goes slower than it does. And things, you know, there's regulatory stuff that has to be done. There's things that are there. And, you know, at the end of the day, as much as vet med is, and I'm going to probably get a little bit of hate for this, so I'm going to be prepared for it. Vet med is a customer service industry. As much as we want to ignore that, we are a huge customer service industry. And so sometimes matching customer service with medicine, that's going to be a constant battle of making sure things get done. Like customer service, things can turn around really quickly, and medicine, they can't. So we have to find that balance. But I think the turnover is just, it's a little bit about poor leadership. It's a little bit about poor utilization. People just get burnt out and don't speak up. You know, there's a lot of different factors that can lead to that high turnover rate. I think we're in a rough spot in vet med right now. You see a lot of, you know, people are trying to recruit everywhere, but things can be worked on, and I think it's just always going to be a slow process. But I think there's a number of factors that lead to that high turnover rate, and it is things we can turn around. And just, it's going to be a slow process. Yeah, agreed.
Some people say burnout is inevitable in veterinary medicine. Given the emotional toll and financial pressures, do you agree, or do you think that it can be prevented with the right systems in place?
Oh, it can 100% be prevented. Not every single case. Like, I don't think burnout is ever going to fully go away. I don't think it goes away in any industry, but I think it can definitely be softened, and it can definitely have prevention stuff in place for it. We're seeing already, like, again, we're working with Hound. They get to work with a lot of different independent hospital, corporate groups, small groups, things like that. And you really see in those hospitals that focus on retention, employee engagement, and just like general staff well-being, their turnover rate is much lower compared to others. Now, again, everyone knows there's never going to be a fully zero turnover rate based on burnout.
Right.
But I was talking to a hospital about a week ago, and they're a very small group. They're about 6 hospitals. They calculated that their turnover rate was 6% last year. That is like minuscule compared to other.
Right.
Like, I think the average turnover rate for the industry is 25%, something like that. I think it's like roughly around 23%.
That's even lower than I would estimate.
Well, when you break it down per group, per like technicians, doctors, practice managers, DSRs, they can vary. But if you average out over the industry as a whole, that is, it's 25, around 25%. That's still a lot of people. You know, if you think how many people going into vet med, that is a lot, especially for DVMs and technicians who pay a lot of money to get their licenses and get renewed and keep up with their education and things like that. Like, these are people who have invested money and are now going, yeah, I'm done. After short periods of time. And I've forgotten what the rest of the question was, so I'm going to stop there and let you talk.
Well, I mean, you know, one of the other things that I think is a hot topic right now is corporate consolidation. Do you see it as a threat to culture or an opportunity to drive real change?
That is a tough question. I know there is a lot of negative review around corporate consolidation. And what's hard with that is that all corporates and all corporate consolidations do get marred with the same brush. And I work with a lot of corporate groups who their HQ teams are amazing, and they do want to build up lots of different culture aspects. And we like, for example, we work with one of the corporate groups. I won't name them, but when it was Vet Tech Week, they reached out to us months ahead of time and said, like, hey, we would love some ideas from you about how we can do some great cultural things for our vet techs for Vet Tech Week. They've done the same thing with Practice Managers Appreciation Week. They're like, hey, we've got some ideas. You guys are the experts. Can we run them by you and see what we did? And they've done things like they had a remote meditation and guided yoga session with one of our team who's a yoga instructor. And so people could join. They didn't have to. It wasn't a mandatory thing. It was like, hey, we're offering this thing for any of you that are interested, do it. But then there was other things where they could, maybe yoga or meditation is not your thing. They had some other stuff going on. So I think there are definitely some great corporate groups out there. There are definitely some not great ones. And I think, unfortunately, everyone just gets marred with the same brush. But I do think it will take some of the bigger ones that are more positive on building culture and retention that are going to have to lead the way in reversing that and helping that. And they're going to have a big powerhouse in being able to build culture and retention. As much as, independent hospitals can build that, they don't always have the resources available to them to do it as on a larger scale. Corporate groups are going to be the ones that can build that out on a larger scale and really help push the needle forward.
Yeah, there are definitely some corporate groups that are out there that are not only doing a good job, but showing it. And, I think that, as with everything, there's good and bad, right? And there's certain sacrifices we're going to have to make for the greater good for everyone. So,
Yeah, and there's some groups that I know that I work with that all of their team get equity, for example. There's a corporate group I used to work with very closely who it wasn't just their DVMs, their technicians, their assistants, their CSRs. Everyone was offered equity into the company. And it, how that helped with engagement and culture and retention was everyone was invested in the company then. Like, you're actually actually invested, but you then cared about how it grew and what was going on going forward. And I feel like sometimes when, I'm sure this is the same with sport, this is where vet med and sports can kind of link in together a little bit, right? When you've got some skin in the game, like, you're a bit more invested in the result. And so they're one of the groups that has a very low turnover rate from burnout and things like that, because they found ways to invest in their team that wasn't give them pizza or they do pay them well, but they're like, hey, I'm not just going to throw a couple of extra dollars at you and hope that builds culture.
Right.
Like they were like, hey, let's do some things where you feel like you're empowered and invested in what we do as a company, and you'll share your ideas and you'll share your involvement in this, and then that builds out that more.
I really like that, because that type of support is not just, like you're saying, feeding them and filling their bellies. It's more or less giving them an opportunity to make some life-changing decisions with that equity. And I think that's an opportunity that not a lot of veterinary technicians, assistants, nurses, CSRs will have the opportunity to have.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Last thing I got to plug. You said they reached out to you for ideas for Vet Tech Week. I mean, ACT does have hoodies, merch for veterinary technicians. If you guys want to go check that out.
Yeah, and especially with the winter months coming up, I remember my time in clinical practice, those, especially ERs, are cold. So yeah. Mm-hmm. So yeah, check out this merch store.
Okay, let's go looking ahead. If you had the power to redesign veterinary medicine tomorrow, what 3 changes would you make first?
Oh my gosh, what 3 changes for veterinary medicine?
3 changes.
So 3 changes. Well, one, I'm going to stand on a slight soapbox here, and I'm going to say vet tech utilization, but what I mean by that, I do truly mean vet tech utilization, but I also mean full team utilization. This is something I actually just wrote a blog post for a Hound recently about veterinary technicians and education and stuff, but a lot of burnout sometimes comes from just not feeling utilized and not feeling like you're invested in your work. And we focus a lot on vet techs. And I, as a vet tech myself, I am definitely on that pedestal of like, vet techs need to be utilized more. There's so much we can do as part of our education and license that a lot of times we don't often get to do. We can be used for client education. There's so many things within like pet care and things that can actually be like uplifted off the doctors and given to technicians to do.
Yes.
So the doctors get to do more of their job and the technicians feel like they're being utilized.
Preach.
But that also applies though to vet assistants, to CSRs, to practice managers. Like, let the teams do what you've hired them to do and what they are fully in the scope of capable of doing.
Yep.
And your team will function so well, and you'll see so many more clients, and people will be happier with the results. You'll get returning clients. So while the first thing is vet tech utilization, I think the trickle down response from that is just full team utilization. Like, make sure, and if any of your team are not comfortable with a certain thing that should be within their wheelhouse and isn't, then mentorship and things like that, which kind of leads to a second thing there. I guess my second thing would be like encouraging and implementing more mentorship for all team members. Yeah, we see a lot with a lot of, and this is no digs to all the DVMs out there, but a lot of like initiatives are often firstly focused on DVMs, and I get that. If we don't have doctors in these hospitals, we don't have a hospital. There's only so many things that the rest of the team can do, but that doesn't mean the rest of the team can't be impacted by this kind of stuff. So sure, like definitely set up better mentorship options for new grads coming out of vet school, and different options, but do the same thing for like technicians. When green techs come out of school, like have them have some mentorship options at different places. If you have a vet assistant who wants to become a vet tech, like have them get some mentorship before they get to, maybe they can't go to school just yet because of life, money, all those kind of things, but that doesn't mean you can't mentor them for that position. And then the third one, honestly, this is probably a weird thing. We need to get rid of this is how it's always been mentality.
Oof. Like, say that again. Oh.
I think the worst phrase you can ever hear in vet med is, this is the way we've always done it. Yeah. Because cool, that works, but that doesn't mean there isn't a better way to do this thing. And it can incorporate, and it can be in addition to what you're already doing, but that is a phrase that needs to go away.
I have a scenario I want to run by you and just kind of get your opinion on, since we're talking about utilization and, the old way, quote unquote. There is a scenario where we have an experienced veterinary technician who is the only credentialed person in the hospital. That person automatically, the position of leadership hasn't been given to them yet, but this person, the experience is vast. Everyone else are veterinary assistants, and with less than 1 year, 1 year of experience themselves. Now these assistants, and again, I'm not going to share names, but these assistants are allowed to do some things that are not
Right.
yeah. So
don't worry. I've been there. I've been
yeah.
the only tech in a hospital like that. I'm sure for any technicians listening, a lot of them have probably been in the same scenario.
Right. So how would you approach management if you're feeling a little bit of ethical battle?
Yeah, so that's a great one. And again, I think I have personally been in that situation as
Mhm.
well. And I think a lot of listeners probably will have also been in, if not the same, but a very similar situation. Like for me, I'm based in California. So there are
Right.
very strict rules about what technicians can, RVTs can and can't do versus what assistants can and can't do. If you're really having that ethical concern, that is something, again, feel comfortable approaching managers with things like that. I think sometimes burnout can occur because people don't feel comfortable with
Mhm.
how they can approach their management, and that's something that's 100% a culture and engagement thing.
Yeah.
Um, sorry, I had to plug my charger in. Is my
Uh-oh.
out? There you go. Okay, but that's a culture and engagement thing, right? So
Right.
this is something that hopefully the hospital has done steps and steps back, is that any team members feel comfortable approaching their management with concerns and issues. Um, but if your hospital hasn't built up something like that, yes, I appreciate it's a tough conversation, and not everybody loves tough conversations, but you do need to actually like approach the management with it. And if you feel like your practice manager is not listening, maybe see if you can talk to the lead doctor ahead,
Yeah.
like one of the doctors, someone else who's in as the RVT or LVT CVT, you're probably in a pseudo leadership role, but find
Right.
someone else who's in that similar position to you to go talk to them. Um, and then maybe just kind of discuss like, hey, this is where we're at, and this is, I don't feel comfortable with the technicians doing some of these things. How can we maybe reorganize, reset up a workflow where they're not doing that and I am, or like, is there things that they could be like, 'cause a lot of the times in these situations those vet assistants have been doing it forever and they're probably really good at it.
Yeah.
Like there's nothing, that's, it's no disrespect to those assistants, but if
Yeah.
you feel like this is something as a, there's a moral and legal gray area there with what they're doing, like maybe that's always a thing too. Sorry, tangent here, but
No.
if it is a legal gray area, you want to bring that up to the
Yeah.
practice managers and the leadership, because you only need one person to report that and there's a problem there.
Right.
Um, and like the veterinary medical board, we talk about things moving like molasses, can move like molasses in certain things, but
Yeah.
it's still a thing, it's still a process, and that's something you want to be careful of, especially as a licensed tech or a DVM. Your license is involved in that too. You should never be in a position where you're doing something that impacts your license that you're not comfortable with.
Exactly.
So yeah, just like maybe looking at, and this is another thing I always tell people as well, come with solutions as well as the problems. So
Yeah.
don't just go to your management and say like, hey, this is an issue, like fix it. You
Yep.
want to come to them and say like, hey, I've seen this issue. Here's
Yeah.
my thought on a suggestion of how we can solve that. They may not go with that, but sometimes it just gets creative juices flowing of like, I think we have this problem and this is how my idea is of how we solve it. And a lot of times the practice managers or the leadership haven't actually really thought about that being a problem. They go, cool, yeah, let's try that. Or they'll say, we can't do that for XYZ, but let's look at other ways we can do it. So you just kind of have to feel comfortable with telling them. And also for those vet assistants who have been doing that thing, we have to be careful about them not feeling like you've just told them that they're terrible at their job and they can't do that.
Yeah.
So finding other ways that they can be equally as impactful and useful within the role. Like, so maybe they're not doing, to use an example here, maybe they're not in the dentals anymore doing dentals, sutures. You should be
Right.
doing that. But maybe they are helping you chart instead, or maybe they're dealing with another patient that's getting some vaccines, and as long as it's under the doctor's supervision, and again, depending on what state you're in, maybe they're doing another appointment or some client education, something that they are still being empowered to do and impactful doing, but not the moral legal gray area.
Well, I definitely have to say too, as a veterinary assistant myself, I want to make sure I have I'm making my team better by putting these credentialed nurses in the position to be the best that they can be. So it is never a problem for me. And I will say I have a bit of skill, but it is never.
I've met some amazing vet assistants in my time. I was trained by, as a technician, I was trained by a vet assistant. Like, I wouldn't be the tech I am today without those vet assistants.
Yeah. Well, but we have to, for the better of the field, we have to respect the hierarchy, and we have to respect the pecking order of things so that we can grow as a field. It's not just about that one individual interaction. It's about all the millions of the individual interactions going across the industry, and us changing that so that we can then be in a better position to demand more money, to demand the respect that we need to, build up the next generation and things like that.
Yeah.
So.
And the other thing there as well is, with that situation, it's something you can also do as a technician. I do remember having this scenario play out a little bit. One of the hospitals I worked at had a vet assistant who was just, as a tech, we were open 6 days a week. I could only work 5. There was a day where there was just no technician in the hospital, and one of the vet assistants I worked with, she was the one who was the go-to to fill the things that I would normally have done.
Yeah.
And she didn't feel comfortable with it either. She knew her role didn't cover that specifically. I remember her and I sitting down and having a conversation once of, do you actually want to become a vet tech? Is that a career path that you actually want to go through? And she said yes. So we kind of talked to our leadership in that hospital about, is there a way? The reason she didn't go to tech school is because she just couldn't afford it at the time.
Yeah.
And so we were like, well, is there a way that she could talk to the hospital? And this was an independent practice. Sometimes these conversations are a little easier with corporate versus independents. But we spoke to them about hey, she's already doing all these things. Would there be a way you could invest in her actually going to tech school? So she could actually do it. And then you have 2 techs on staff. And that means we're always covered. She feels more comfortable doing these things because she is a technician. I feel more comfortable on my days off. There's no legal gray area there, those kind of things. And then eventually the hospital, there were some contracts drawn up and negotiations and stuff, but they ended up paying partially, I don't remember how much, but towards her going to technician school. Here in California at the time, you could do alternate routes, so she could still work full time and go to school in the evening and then at the weekends. And she's a fully trained vet tech now. So,
One of the things,
those opportunities too.
Yeah, one of the things I want to highlight, and I think it's really important to mention, especially for some of those hospitals that are, and excuse the term, still practicing, I will say, backwards. Investing that money actually boosts your ability to generate more revenue. And when we talk about utilization and things like that, they're items that a registered veterinary technician, LVT, CVT can do, which generates revenue for the hospital that the doctor doesn't have to do themselves. And I just want to stress that to all of those hospitals. It's about growth.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many things. Again, practice managers and owners and leadership teams have a really hard job of especially right now, budgets are tight.
Yeah.
Not everyone has money to spend on different things, and as a country, we are spending less on health, pet care, because we're just everyone's struggling right now, and so therefore that's impacting money that's going into vet clinics. But you really do have to weigh up those decisions of what is going to get you the biggest ROI on that payment. And oftentimes, like, people will look at, well, maybe if we have an extra exam room, we could see more patients. Maybe if we get an upgraded dental x-ray, maybe if we get an upgraded x-ray machine, if we get those kind of things, they're going to give you some return on investment. The problem is, if you have that machine and no one's there to work on it, it's not making you any money, right? So I feel like what the biggest ROI is investing in your staff first. Like you said, like, you can get so much, the vet techs can see tech appointments. There's certain clients that if there's not anything major going on, it's just like a booster vaccine or something like that, again, depending on state. There are certain things that technicians can just see, so the vet potentially never even has to lay eyes on it, because it's not something that it's a healthy pet that's coming in for a updated DHPP vaccine, or just to pick up their medications and just do like a educational thing of making just a general check-in, things like that. And that means your tech can be seeing an appointment while your doctor is seeing another one, and you're generating income from 2 appointments. Those kind of things. Invest in the team first, and then buy all the fancy new equipment. But like, if you've got no one to work the equipment, then that's not making you any money.
Great point. This has been a great conversation, and we touched on a lot of points. Thank you for sharing your story and insight today.
Thanks, Ryan, it was a pleasure meeting you. Ivex, it's been even more of a pleasure chatting with you today.
Yeah, thank you. I feel like we could, with the topics that we're touching on, we could probably just go on and on. And we're touching on some really important topics, because I think these are industry changing topics and topics that are happening in today's hospitals right now. And the work that you're doing with Hound is, right at the epicenter of all of that.
Yeah, we hope so. What we wanted so I'm not part of the original start of the company. I joined when they were already a year or two old. But one thing we've always been proud of doing and trying to do, they've been doing since the start, is just making changes in the industry, and like I said, small but mighty changes. That's all that's what VetMed needs, and whether it be in recruiting, whether it be in, helping with the relief professionals, or just culture and engagement and retention. Like, these are all huge things.
Yeah. For those who want to connect with you or support the work that you're doing with partnerships and culture innovations, what's the best way to reach you?
That's great. So as you said at the beginning of the podcast, go check out hound.vet. There's links there if you are looking for a job, looking for relief work. There's a page you go to if you're a hospital listening to this and you're like, hey, we actually need to hire some staff or recruit some relief vets. There's a page there for you. And then there's also our community resources pages on there. So you can see the different perks. Again, for anyone who's like, hey, I don't really get access to a lot of perks or things through my job, go check out our Hound community for things like that. Free educate, like webinars. Depending on when you're listening to this, I guarantee there will be one within about a week or two of when you're listening to this. So go check that out. We actually just posted up our January through March next year's schedule. So everything's there ready to be accessed. And then for me personally, I am on Instagram and on LinkedIn. LinkedIn, I'm just Lucy Nash RVT, I think is how you can easily find me on there. And on Instagram, I'm Lucy Lou Pop RVT. I'll send that over to Ryan so you can add that in there. I haven't posted a lot recently just because life and work has been busy, but I try and share on there. One thing we didn't really touch upon a lot today, but something I try to do through my social media accounts is, I'm a vet tech who doesn't work in clinical practice anymore. I work in industry, but I'm still a licensed technician. And that is a career path for vet techs that a lot of vet techs don't know about. So I try and share what my life and work is like with that, like with having to travel to conferences and doing relief work and doing things like that, and all the weird and wild stuff I get to do from that, because it is a career path that is available for technicians that a lot of people don't know about.
Yeah, thank you for that. I love that you said that, because people need to know that there's options.
Yeah, I mean, we touched on part of the culture and engagement part of there is, when technicians go to tech school, they are often, well, maybe not every school does this, maybe it was just my school. They told us that the average lifespan of a technician is 5 to 7 years. Like, that's a horrible thing to tell someone who's just put 30K down to go to school, you know?
Yeah.
But I get it. I was a burnout statistic. I got burnt out in clinical practice, but I just liked the industry so much that I didn't want to leave it. It was my second career as well. So I was like,
Yeah.
I can't leave another industry. Like, what am I doing?
Right.
But it opened me up to a world of all these different things you can do outside of being in clinics. RVTs knowledge and like vet assistants, CSRs, everybody, like vet professionals knowledge is so crucial in the industry as well. Like having people who have been in the trenches in industry being able to advise and make decisions and
Mm.
be part of how the industry changes is huge. And so you can teach the next generation, you can
Yep.
help impact new companies that are coming through. There's so many different ways you can do that. So I try to share a little bit of that on my social media as well.
I love that. Well, Lucy, thank you again for your time. We're going to let you go for now. We know you have lots to do, but we're going to have you come back and talk more about these things. You've dropped so many nuggets and gems that,
Thank you.
I'm pretty sure for our listeners, they're like jotting notes down.
Probably. And then again, if I can plug one last thing, which we plugged at the beginning as well, I'm repping BlendVET here as well,
Yeah.
and I know they have a few events coming up in the new year. One big one being specifically at VMX. So if anyone listening to this is traveling to Florida to VMX, they have a massive pathway event there. It'll be the third or fourth year they're running it now. So check out if you're feeling a little down about being in the industry right now, go meet the future of vet med, and I promise you it will completely rejuvenate your view in the industry.
Yeah, agreed. I second that. There's some great work going on, especially, again, shout out Dr. Nicole Bruno.
Yeah.
All right, that's it for today. Thank you, guys. Thank you, listeners. Look out for this podcast coming out shortly, and we'll get the clips and snippets out. Look on Athletic Conceptual Training on YouTube. And again, thank you again.
Thanks, guys. Have a good one.